Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm going to take real cases in our live stream today from our YouTube subscribers and the live stream audience, walk through exactly which Italian residency program makes sense for each situation. Okay. So we're not talking theory, no generic advice, real people, real budgets, real circumstances, and real solutions. My name is Reza. I'm the founder of Ingwe Immigration, helping applicants with global mobility, residency, citizenship options, and cross border investment solutions. Either submit your case in the live chat during our live session every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube, and I'll assess your best Italian pathway, or email us at realadvice@ingwe.ca. So, real advice, all one word, at ingwe.ca. If you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and we'll cover it during our next sessions, whether it's for Italy, Portugal, Spain, Malta, Canada, USA's EB5, Dubai, any of the passport programs in the Caribbean or Micronesia, Panama, Cyprus, Greece, Bulgaria, and more. We can do custom live assessments all year round. Today, we're doing Italy. So keep in mind, this is how it works. In all these case studies we're covering today to obtain the Italian residency for yourself and your family, perhaps the investor category is possible, of course. Meaning, if you've got 250,000 euros to invest in a startup, or 500,000 euros to invest in a publicly or private Italian company, you can potentially qualify and obtain your residency, like roughly in 3 months plus minus, as long as you have the money and clean background check. I mean, those are basically 90% of the criteria. However, the purpose of this live stream is to walk you through the various case studies um, that are looking for other options and are seeking custom advice on their specific employment, financial, or family situation, right? The investor visa is, of course, possible and also good and fast route, but you need to know all your options before you can decide for your residency and for Italy. Similar to making any financial investment decisions, where you can obtain advice from your financial advisor or banker, they're not going to give you just one option, right? I mean, they shouldn't, at least. And that's also very important in the global mobility, residency, and citizenship industry, providing you options and educating on what's possible and what isn't, to match based on your profile and your short, medium, and long-term goals. Okay, it's very important. So quick, um, besides this intro, we got to first figure out, okay, why do people want the Italian residency? You've got an American passport or UK passport, Canadian passport. You can go there, spend 90 days, whatever. But people want to stay more, right? They want to stay 6 months. They want to stay 4 months. Maybe they want to stay 12 months of the year, right? They don't want to be restricted. They don't want to be considered a visitor. Maybe they want to work there. Maybe they want to start a company. Maybe they want to work remotely and stay semi-permanently. Maybe you just want to have a place there and you don't want to be considered a visitor. And you may even spend a couple months a year. The key is flexibility, right? So whether from wherever country you're from, when you do obtain any of the residency programs we're covering today, it's to have that full flexibility, whether it's healthcare in Italy, whether it's to have unlimited residency flexibility, or working, being able to work in Italy, or having your kids attend elementary or high school for free, or your spouse or common law to be able to work freely in Italy. So that's the nature of why people want the Italian residency, versus just going there as an American, Canadian, or UK citizen and being like, okay, I'm here to visit, see the see the Colosseum, a little bit of sightseeing. Oh, I got to go back, or I got to try to get a renewal, which is more complicated than what we're talking about today. Okay, we have received several emails from our audience members asking us to assess their cases for Italy, and this is throughout the last few months. So their goal is to obtain a residency. We've removed all the personal information, stripped it down to the facts of the case, so no personal information, no specifics, in order to make a custom assessment for these cases and have other readers and audience members be able to check if those cases sort of overlap with theirs, and use that to make an assessment, or a potential decision in terms of, okay, which program is best for you. Okay, and we're talking about Italy here, folks. An American, okay, case one, an American remote worker. So they're a consultant, okay, but again, it could be any occupation, as long as you're on payroll or they've registered their own S corp from the US with $45,000 annual income. So this is family, or this person is employed, right? Either through their own S corp or through a company. Their annual income is at least $45,000 or more. Family of four, meaning dependents, spouse, children, planning to move to Italy by September 2025. Okay, so that's the key in this first case study. Well, you're in luck. Okay, this person who sent us this information, based on the information you provided, you could qualify for most of the Italian residency programs. That means if you've got an S corp, have filed taxes, and has a revenue of more than 12,000 euros in the past financial year, the euro US is usually 8 to 10% difference, by the way, and it's still operational, and you have personal income, right? Well, you're a director or shareholder of this S corp, right? You could potentially qualify. However, if you're the only shareholder of this S corporation, you may not qualify for the representative office. But we're going to say, just for the sake of this discussion, that maybe your spouse is also a shareholder or somebody else of this S corp, right? Meaning that you can actually have a Schedule C for your corporate tax filings, right? So if you've got more than one shareholder for the S corps, you could apply for the representative office residency program, right? And we'll cover the details in the next case study. Okay, that's one. But for the sake of this argument right now, let's say you don't have another shareholder for your S corp, right? So we would recommend a digital nomad visa. You have at least 28,000 euros annual income that you can prove. You're a non-EU citizen. You are, like a, potential, your profession is like white collar, skilled, high skilled, whether you're a consultant, tech, whatever it is, a CPA, an accountant, right? We're not talking about labor, like, you're not like a tradesperson. Proof of stable remote location, independent work. So you need 6 months of remote work as proof to be able to qualify for this digital nomad visa. And again, the minimum income is 28,000 euros. You've got to show proof that you can provide, you've got a suitable accommodation in Italy and private health insurance. Okay. So that's the key here, that if you're going through an S corp or you're an employee of a company, you can potentially, with a digital nomad visa, qualify for a residency. Okay, this is important. And folks, remember, what we're covering today, okay, is are these programs that have the same advantages as their investor residency. Okay, so when I'm talking about the digital nomad or the rep office or the freelance or whatever these programs are, they have the same path to permanent residency. Okay, they have the same path to citizenship in Italy, and neither of them actually requires full residency in Italy. So the advantage of the Italian investor residency is because it's faster processing time than these other programs, and you invest and you have full authorization to work, live in Italy. With these other programs, sometimes they have some other nuances that we'll cover, but you can still have the same path to citizenship, have the same path to residency, and have the flexibility of spending as much time as you need to in Italy. Okay, so that was a factual timeout. That when we're talking about investor residency, it's an investment program. You can invest, you go in, it's quick. These other programs have other qualifications. You don't invest. So that's the point. So this person could also apply for the investor residency program if they have 250,000 euros or 500,000 euros. For healthcare as a digital nomad, you can do a registering voluntarily to pay 2,000 euros a year and obtain your social insurance number or social security number in Italy, right? and with that 2,000 euros a year, you can actually receive Italian healthcare, right? Children allow are allowed to study for free with like elementary, high school, right? Your spouse is allowed to work even as a digital nomad visa, right? So you probably get 99% of everything you get with an investor visa, right? So you have to consider that. And remember, we're going to provide the download link for all the Italian programs and the requirements so you can compare them, because you know and I know when you compare online, right now the biggest thing they'll push to you is the 250,000 or 500,000 euro investment. Of course, that's okay. That's fine. If it's a good investment, why not? But not everyone wants to invest, not everyone can invest, and sometimes you want to do a try and buy. What's the second case we have from our readers and audience members? Self-employed American who runs their own company and planning to move to Italy with their spouse. Okay, running your own company can mean you are 100% shareholder or even 1% shareholder, but being paid by the company you have equity in. Okay, however, we'll cover the scenario even if you're not being paid from your company. I would recommend the rep office for you because you're either a director or shareholder of a company based on last year's financial tax filings with the IRS, right? Because we know and you know that in the US, the shareholders and directors are basically stated on the tax filing, so you can't retroactively change it later. You don't need to be a shareholder necessarily, it could be either or. However, as we covered in the last case, if you have an S corp and not more than one shareholder, you won't have a Schedule C, so you can't actually qualify for this. However, if you have a C corp or S corp with more than one shareholder or other corporate structure where you can either as a director or shareholder and you can show your Schedule C for the last year and the business is still operational, well, you can apply for the representative office. Okay, so we do a registration with the Chamber of Commerce in Italy. There has to be a minimum annual income of the company, meaning the revenue of 12,000 euros in the past financial year. It should be incorporated in the home country, well, let's say US, Canada, UK. The company must be active in good standing and not subject to bankruptcy or liquidation. Okay, and you need to be a director or shareholder of this company. With that in place, and then potential lease, do some paperwork in Italy, register, and there's no legal entity registration of the American company in Italy or wherever your company is that's appointing you as the representative. There's no banking up, there's no legal tax implication in Italy. All it is your representative going to Italy, right? And what we would do after you arrive in Italy under this program, so it can take up to 6 to 8 months, we will convert you to a freelance before the first renewal, because you don't want to be on payroll for that overseas company, which will kind of complicate things a little bit. So before the first renewal, we'll convert you to freelance, meaning you need to show 10,000 euros personally as your income to skip over to the freelance visa. Yeah. You're wondering, why am I doing that? Well, it's easier to maintain a freelance visa than staying on as a rep. The rep is a good way of coming in. Okay. You can also qualify as a digital nomad if you're being paid by your own company that you own. You can potentially, if you have the 28,000 euro income per year, come in and you have that for at least 6 months or more as a history of your transactions, your employment, coming in under the digital nomad as well, right? If you don't have access to your the tax filings of the corporation that you're working for, or you don't have that structure in place, you can just come as a digital nomad. Again, healthcare is covered, right? So as a digital nomad, you can pay 2,000 euros a year, you'll be covered, right? So that's important to note. Keep in mind that during this time, your children can study, your spouse can study, yes, under the rep office and even the digital nomad visa. Okay. And I'll just explain to you regarding the rep office healthcare so you can understand as well. Give me a second here. There's a lot of info, folks. There's a lot of info. So under the rep office, Individuals can be considered a posted worker and typically entitled to free registration with the SSN, provided it's recognized and compliant with applicable Italian regulations, including proper registration with the INPS and relevant documentation such as the A1 certificate from the EU. However, that's why we recommend you come in the rep office with private health, switch over to freelance, do the uh, um, elective €2,000 a year healthcare to opt in for the government. I know it sounds a lot, but again, that's the way to do it. Case 3, American retiree, €2 million or dollars, in their liquid or assets, whatever, wants flexibility to go back and forth when they want, right? And they want to come in this summer. Well, whether you have income or not doesn't matter. And many people would think the elective residency would be a good choice, but I wouldn't do that due to too many restrictions of that program. I would probably go with the investor visa in this case. If you've got the liquidity, and you could maybe utilize that directed IRA towards an investment in Italy for this program. So it could work. If you talk to your financial advisor, coordinate with us, we could potentially make that work with a directed IRA. Healthcare eligibility. Unfortunately, investor visas are not entitled to free registration, but they could do the elective €2,000 like the other programs of getting Italian healthcare, right? Yeah, it can work, kids can study, your spouse, your Kamala, you can do whatever you want under the investor resident. Remember, folks, we're always posting about key details for investors, entrepreneurs, new programs, policy changes, ROI for your investments overseas, residencies, passports, tax relief, crypto-friendly jurisdictions. And if you like that, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get the chance to send your assessment, and we can do it live every Thursday. What's our fourth case? Young entrepreneur, common law, limited capital, planning to move to Italy this year, eventually in the next 6 months in 2025, maybe 6 to 8 months. Well, 100% consider digital nomad as your way. All you need to qualify is, as I said, 28,000 plus euros in your annual income that you can show through your taxes. Healthcare, 2,000 euros a year. Children, yes, they can study. And of course, your spouse can work as well. Okay, so you don't have or don't want 250,000 or 500,000 euros to go through the investor program. You don't want to spend it all, or it's maybe stuck in some, who knows, mutual fund or a property or some kind of financial investment. So you're not willing to take that out, right? So you're going to go through the digital nomad. And the reason we're not doing the freelance visa, folks, is because there's a quota. There's, I think, about 1,500 application quota every year with Italy for people who apply from outside with a freelance visa. However, that's why we suggested that in the cases where you're qualifying for a representative office to come in to switch to a freelance visa inside the country, right? And we'll do another case study where you'll do an investor visa and then you'll switch over to a freelance visa. The freelance visa conversion inside the country in Italy, when it's applied, there's no quota. So you're literally almost 99% approved. But if you apply from overseas and they've already reached their quota, boom, you may have a technical refusal just because of the quota. What's our fifth case study? Early retired couple who can't access their retirement pension, 401, whatever. So you're an American couple, can't access your 401k or self-directed IRA yet, and are looking for an efficient way to obtain a residency in Italy, but are not in a huge rush. You don't have many options available, but there's some potential solutions and pathways to obtain your Italian residency. One is if you got family or friends who can add you as directors or shareholders to the company, and then you can come in maybe next year under the rep office, right, with no investment, and then switch over to the freelance visa at the 1 year mark. Okay. In case you invest 250,000 euros and you have the liquidity now, then you can convert back to freelance and get your investment back. Yeah, folks, listen, folks, drop the donut, stop watching Netflix, stop driving and pull over. This is a good one. Okay, here's a golden nugget. You invest 250,000 euros or 500,000 euros, right? In the investor residency, a company, startup, whatever, right? You come in quick, like, a month, you in within you make the investment in Italy, the whole thing can take 3 months if you're quick. You've got your liquidity, you've got your documentation, okay? At the 2-year mark, so you're in Italy, or you don't have to be there all the time. At the 2-year mark, there's the first renewal period for this program, the investor residency, right? So you renew, then you get another 3 years. As soon as you get approved for renewal, you convert to the freelance visa by having that, what was it? The freelance visa requirement was 10,000 euros a year minimum income. And when you convert, you withdraw your investment from that publicly traded company or the startup. Make sure the startup is safe, because startups are, they take money and don't give it back to you. That's a pretty good startup, right? Scenario. However, there are ways to work around it, to invest in a safe startup or in a structured startup that will return that investment capital to you after you've converted to a freelance visa at the 2-year renewal mark, which was successful. And then for the next 3 years, for that first 5 years, you're under freelance. You applied from an inside, you withdrew your investment, so you're not stuck investing for 5 years. Elective residency, everyone knows you need at least 32,000 euros gross income plus as passive income. And you need healthcare insurance and all that sort of stuff as well. A lot of our clients don't do that because they're not allowed to work, and that flexibility in Italy doesn't work. The sixth case is freelance American consultant, no existing company, you're not on payroll, planning to apply to move to Italy, okay? And the requirements as a freelancer, again, 10,000 euros, at least proof of experience for the last 3 years, and there's an annual quota of 1,500 of these cases that you can apply from overseas, right? So you've got to be careful. If you apply as a freelancer from US, UK, or Canada, you could be refused. But if you apply at the beginning of the year, you could get through. So all you need to prove, 10,000 euros a year income, 3 years work experience, you're good to go. Again, elective healthcare, you can pay 2,000 euros a year inside Italy, but everyone needs to start with private health insurance when you apply, right? And then when you're in, you're good to go. And all these lead to permanent residency in 5 years if you meet the language requirements and residency requirements. Again, we're going to provide the link to download these resources. There's a lot more than this that we can't cover in today's session, but you kind of getting an idea. You may come to the conclusion that A, you know way less than you realize about the talent program. B, there's way more options out there than they made you, realize, right? That they gave to you in your first assessment. And 3, you're like, wow, this is way too confusing. Why don't I just invest at 250 or 500,000 and go with it? That's perfectly fine, right? We're here to educate you. We're here to give you options so you make the decision. Because when you only get one option to invest X amount or X, like 2 options for investment, those are not options. True options are customized, right? We want to make sure you get the most of our time watching our live streams here on YouTube every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, or reading our articles that we're going to post. So right after this, we're going to post this on our website as well, doing real life custom assessments for various residency programs, whether it's Italy, European jurisdictions, Panama, Canada, USA, New Zealand, or any fast passport programs, right? Remember, none of these programs we talked about here in Italy for the Italian program, Digital Nomad, Freelance, Rep Office, Italian Visitor Residency, require you to live in Italy full-time or require you to become a tax resident of Italy. And remember, Italy does have dual taxation agreements with the US, Canada, and UK. And you can obviously read about that in our article that we've posted as well just this past week about tax-friendly jurisdictions. Okay, and how quickly it is, how fast it is, how easy it is to get into, and the cost of it and the infrastructure. So we had a nice little ranking system. If you like international investment hacks, creative residency, and citizenship solutions, or key analysis and the exposed truth about programs and policies and updates around the world, then you can click the subscribe button for our YouTube channel when we post more videos to be updated on all these programs. So keep in mind, it's free. So you're like, why should I subscribe? Well, it's a free. It's a click of a button. And unsubscribing is free. You don't need to call a call center and beg to be unsubscribed. Okay? Or you need to look for that link. How do I unsubscribe? It's in. No, click to subscribe. If you don't like it, you unsubscribe. Plus, you get the chance to email us, right, as a subscriber and say, hey, I'm a subscriber. Please do an assessment. Obviously, we're not going to disclose your information, but we'll do an assessment in every live session that we've got coming up this month and next month. Remember, when you subscribe, make sure your profile allows us to check if that you are a subscriber, because in YouTube, as you know, there are personal privacy settings saying that to be publicly, showing that you're a subscriber of our channel or not. Folks, we have got some questions here. Viva Autonomo. I recently found an apartment and contacted the listing agent. When I asked for the contract, they requested payment first. Is this a legitimate practice? Yes, Viva. That is a legitimate practice. So what happens sometimes is, okay, you visited Italy and you've finalized it. And sometimes some service providers can actually provide the documentation for you so you can get the accommodation, proof of accommodation, come into the country and then pick your place, sign the agreement and go in, right? Because all these programs, folks, Investor Residency, Digital Nomad, Rep Office, Freelance, they need proof of accommodation. The same goes true with every European jurisdiction. I'm talking about Portugal, Spain, Cyprus, Greece, Bulgaria, you name it. If you're going through any of these programs, you need to provide proof of accommodation. Okay? And yeah, Viva, it's tricky, right? Like if you want an agreement, if they send you an agreement, so they should at least send you the contract and then request the deposit. If they're asking you to deposit, then get the contract, yeah, that's a bit weird. And weird in a bad way, not in weird that's pretty cool. No, that's not cool, right? But there are service providers that can potentially help you get the accommodation paperwork ready. You come in and then pick your place later, right? Or you can do it remotely. And of course, we can guide you on those factors if you're looking for residence. If you're just looking to rent or buy in Italy, of course, there's no restrictions. You can do that. But if you're looking to tie it up with a residency and come in and not be considered a visitor or tourist and stay as long as you like, go out, come back in, then I would say you need proper planning. A lot of people I've realized in the US start looking at real estate first, and then be like, oh, okay, I'll do this, and then figuring out the residency requirements later. It should be done concurrently. You tell us, or your service provider, what you're looking for, what's your ultimate goal, where the real estate falls in, and we'll show you the pathway of least resistance. Okay. Fufu says, okay, thank you. Thank you, Fufu, for joining in. And everyone in the shadows who never comments or is not talking to us, perfectly fine. You can just watch us, fast forward, rewind later on when we've posted this video on our YouTube, and we'd be happy to do a customized assessment and get a call together for Italy. And whether you're looking at Portugal, Spain, Malta, Italy, Bulgaria, I have an amazing comparison table between all the programs in these countries. And if you've watched this live all the way to the end and you realize what I just told you, you can just ping me and say, hey, Reza, let's get on a call. I want to get that comparison table, because at the end of the day, we're here to advise you, customize, educate you, give you all the options. Then you make the decision. If I only give you one option, I'm making the decision for you, right? Right? This is, imagine, it's financial advice. You go to the bank, your investment advisor, they give you one option. They're like, yes or no. You're like, well, I need more options. This is why we're here. Okay, folks, we're here again next week, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, YouTube live. Subscribe so YouTube actually notifies you when we're live. And if you don't have to join, right? That's all we're talking about, folks. We're talking about educating Italian residency, Spain, Portugal, Malta, Greece, Cyprus, Bulgaria, New Zealand, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Panama, Canada, US, and the Caribbean islands Too many to mention. If you missed us today, tune back next Thursday, 11 a.m. live. We'll cover everything again. This video will be posted, or this live stream, on our YouTube channel. Thanks, folks. Take care. And remember, always have a plan. Make sure you plan before you pull the trigger and apply. Just don't apply for the sake of applying. Okay? Take care. Have a good one. Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.